Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Tune In Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine. And every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, I like to bring you an online class. Now, the class is free to watch. However, partway through this video, you will find out how you can get the supplies to create 2 of each of the cards that you see me creating tonight. Tonight's cards are created using the Flight and Airy Designer Series paper. I think you are going to love this beautiful limited edition paper. So let's get started. For this first card, we're going to bring in a piece of vellum cardstock. Vellum is a semi-transparent medium, and it's very delicate. And yet it's got good weight to it, but it looks really cool when it is dry embossed. So I'm going to bring in the flower/starfish pattern from the Basics 3D embossing folder set. And because this is a 3D embossing folder, when we emboss with it, we need to plate 1, our folder with our vellum in it, and then a plate number 4. Bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and run it through. And then when we take it out, you'll see that it has made this really cool effect. Now you can lay it down. You have a choice which side is up, of course, but it will flatten out a bit, especially if you were to, maybe do something like this with it for a short period of time. It will flatten out in an envelope anyway. What we're going to do is bring in a piece of Misty Moonlight that is 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And this piece of vellum is going to get attached to that. Now, the thing with vellum is that you do not want it to, I'm going to just see if I can help it curl back a little bit here gently with my bone folder. You don't want to adhere it where the adhesive is going to show. Now, because this is such an intricate pattern, I'd probably be fine anyway. But we're covering up most of this, so it's really just the edges that are going to show. I'm going to put some adhesive in here, just in the middles, just in the middle section. Apply that to our card front, so you can see how it does show through, right? Now this does dry fairly clear, but usually you still can see through vellum a little bit with the adhesive. It really depends what you've done to the vellum. I think this would be fine. But just in case, this is what we're going to do. Now I have a piece of the pattern from the DSP, the Flight and Airy DSP, that has the blue on the background. And this measures, let me see, this measures 3 by 4. And I've got a piece of Fresh Freesia cardstock, which measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And Fresh Freesia is one of the colors in this designer series paper. Oop, there's a hair. It's not a cat hair this time. That one was mine. Gotta just apply some adhesive here. Now, I was pretty selective when I cut my DSP. I cut from one edge. This is actually the left edge of the paper, of the big 12 by 12 sheet. And I thought the birds were positioned pretty nicely there, so I'm going to be putting my greeting over here. I have a piece of linen thread here. I'm going to just tie this in a bow. And I usually start with it in the middle, just because it's a little bit easier. You want to make sure that it is pretty taut so that you don't have a big gap. And then you just fix the ends so it's like you want them. And then to get it where you want, you just put one grip on one side and one on the other and roll it around here. All right, and then we can put this onto our card front. Let's see, let's go ahead and attach this. You could attach this with dimensionals if you wanted to. I'm just gonna put it down here with regular adhesive. There we go. And because this has a texture to it, I do find liquid glue to work the best. Kind of gets in all those crevices and holds it well. All right, now we need a piece of basic white cardstock. This is 1 by 2.5, and I will cut it down. But before I do that, I need to bring in a stamp set and stamp it. So I'm going to take the Hello from the Layering Leaves set, which is just a beautiful font to go with the beautiful paper. This is the block I have out, so I might as well use it. And we're going to stamp in Misty Moonlight to match our base. Stamp in the middle. There we go. And then I'm going to just snip these ends at an angle and try to get this roughly the same angle on both sides. And this is now what I will pop up with dimensionals. I'll grab some dimensionals here. And there we have our hello. You can arrange your bow however you want to with that. All right. Now for the inside, I have a piece of basic white. I need to decorate it somehow, and let me show you a trick. I'm going to bring in the paper from the DSP, and one of the patterns here is a lot of little birds. And look at this little bird right here. See how he's cut off? So I don't have a complete bird there. That's okay, because this is what's going to go on the inside of my card. I'm going to fussy cut around it, and these birds are kind of round and straight lines, so the fussy cutting is really very quick and easy. Have you ever noticed that when I cut, my index finger is free? A lot of people put it down, but I don't know. For some reason, that one sticks out a lot. Anybody else like that? Or is it just weird old me? All right. So see how I have this straight edge here? But look, if I put this right along here, that edge looks like he's just coming off. It's perfect. Totally looks intentional. So let's go ahead and put that right there again. And then I have something I can write on the inside. It says hello on the outside, so it's probably just going to be a note on the inside. Just align that, put that down, and there we have that card. And it's got lots of little features. It's got this pretty bird on the inside. It's got lots going on the front, the pretty DSP, the interesting angle cut on the greeting, which I can see that I didn't put down straight. There we go. We've got this pretty linen thread, and then we've got the delicate vellum on the front as well. So really pretty card, but pretty quick and easy. I'm going to begin with a layer of the Birds and Fresh Freesia DSP that is 4 by 5 1/4. So just a 1/4 of an inch smaller than a regular card base. Here we go. So you can see that this is just a little bit smaller. Now, rather than cut a separate piece with the birds, I'm going to cut the center out here. So I want my birds layer to be, I figured it out, I want it to be about 2.5 by 3 3/4. So the measurements are 1.5 inches less than the measurements for the larger piece. So if I cut that number in half, so 1.5 divided by 2 is 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to use the marking for 3/4 of an inch on my cutter. And I'm going to cut 3/4 of an inch up. So I'm going to put my little arrow here that is on my cutter at the 3/4 inch mark. And then I'll cut up to 3/4 of an inch from the top. So that puts it to the 4.5 inch mark. And then I'm going to rotate and do the same thing on the other side, just so I don't forget those measurements. So where it is right here, the 4.5 inch mark, I'm going to cut down to the 3/4 of an inch mark. Now I'm going to rotate it. Again, put it at the 3/4 of an inch mark. And you don't even have to measure here. You don't have to know these numbers. You can just put it so that the cutting blade aligns with the cut mark and go through to the other cut mark. And rotate it 180 degrees and do the same thing over here. All right, and that cuts out your little piece. Then when we flip it over, we have this, but you don't want to be able to see your cut marks. So that's where you bring in a coordinating piece of paper. So this is Boho Blue, which is one of the coordinating colors from this designer series paper. And now you have hidden those other cut marks successfully, and nobody knows there's a little hole under here, saving you some of this pretty paper. Now all you have to do is adhere the pieces. Now, I'm going to recommend that you adhere this piece next, because otherwise you're going to get stuck with a gluey mess trying to put this little thin layer on top of the bigger layer. So there's an Australian demonstrator where I got the idea for this card, but she didn't do this paper saving technique. But when I looked at it, I thought, oh, this is like the double time and the triple time technique. I'm going to save some paper because I don't want to have to cut into those birds and just waste that pretty paper. So now I could just put this, and you could pop this up on dimensionals too if you wanted to. Now, certainly another option that you could do is just take Fresh Freesia cardstock and put it around here, but I kind of like just the fact that this has a little bit of a texture to it. It's got some tone-on-tone texture to it. Now, all we need to do is add a greeting. I'm going to bring out my Timeless Arrangements bundle, and this has lots of different words and sayings and some designs. as the dies are great as well. I'm going to use this little one, and I'm going to use the Thank You from this set. Let's see, what color am I going to stamp in? Might as well go with the boho blue to tie in that layer a little bit more. I just have a scrap piece of basic white. And we will die cut this. See how perfectly that fits right there. I'm gonna tie this down with a little bit of painter's tape. My washi tape is somewhere, but painter's tape is basically the same thing. You can use a Post-it note, whatever you want. Get that centered about the way I want it. We'll bring in our die cutting machine. You know, I love the chair that I sit in, but it is so noisy when I stand up or sit down. It's 1, 2. I need a third on there. I've got a nicer top plate somewhere, but we're just going to use this one. And then we'll carefully remove the tape. I'm going to stick it on my stand so I can use it again some other time. And we have our thank you. And I think I'm going to put that right here. You know what might be nice is I've got some boho blue ribbon. This is the, what is it? The boho blue textured ribbon. And I think, well, that one's wrinkled. Let me try the other end here. What I can do here is I can snip this end off a little bit. I'm going to snip the wrinkle off. So this one's been kind of floating around my office, my stamp studio for a little bit. It's seen better days. What I'm going to do is, let's see, do I want to do, yeah, I think I'll do that right there. Put that right there. How about that? That looks pretty good, except for I don't like the way that cut. I think my scissors that I'm using right here are dull. Go ahead. Take my trusty scissor sharpener. There we go. And we can put that on just like that. Yep, like it. I'm gonna take this off here just so I can position it a little bit better. Make sure it's centered on there, which it is. And now I will adhere this with dimensionals to my card. Oops, that one's a little bit off. I wanted it off center a little bit just to gives it a little bit more stability, and also can help adhere that to the cardstock. There we have that. You may even want to cut it afterwards, like I'm doing. There we go. And that is our card. As I mentioned earlier, this This class is free to watch, but if you would like the class kit that will contain the consumables for you to create 2 of each of the cards you see here tonight, then simply place an order of $40 or more in my online store. You can find the link for that in the description of this video. If your order is $50 or more, you will qualify for a Sale-a-bration selection. And guess what? The Flight and Airy Designer Series paper is one of those options. And if your order is $60 or more, you will not only get a Sale-a-bration selection and the class kit, but I will also include a package of embellishments that you can use on those cards as well. So let's continue with our projects, shall we? We're going to start again with a piece of the Designer Series paper that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to be using a Lost Lagoon card base here. And while you can see a little bit of Lost Lagoon in the birds, some of the birds here, you can really see it on the back side of this. And we're going to be using both sides at the same time. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer here. Now this is 5 1/4 inches long, so half of that is 2 5/8, which is 2 marks past the 2.5 inch mark. We're going to take our cutter and we're going to cut halfway in. So we're going to cut to the 2 inch mark. So again, using this little pointing guide that's on the end, cut to the 2 inch mark. Now you're going to very carefully fold this back so that the fold goes along this diagonal. Now you may wish to score on that diagonal if you want to, just to make it a little bit easier to fold. If we put the point that is what I would say free over here in the ditch and the center of the cut mark in the ditch, and it's easier to see when it's closed. I can see that the very end is right here and the point is right there. I'm going to do, oops, I moved it. Let's realign it. Oops, I don't want my cutter. I want my scorer right here. And you don't have to do this. You can just totally do it by hand. And now we're going to turn it so that the other point that's on the side where the cut is in the ditch. And again, our middle point right here is in the ditch. We're going to score up there. This will just make it a little bit easier to fold. So now it's really quite easy to fold. So there we have that. And when we put it on our card, we've got this look going on. Now, if you would rather have a different look, you can, but notice the birds are now going sideways. So you may not want that, because even turning it this way, this bird's fine, but this bird is tail down. So we're going to stick with the other way. And this is really just a background anyway. We're going to be making a focal point right in here as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to adhere this down. I think I left my cap off or not screwed down tightly. There we go. We'll get it going. There we go. Just like that. And we can also go ahead and secure these flaps down. glue over here where I didn't want some. There we go. All right. Now we need to put in a focal point. So we'll bring in a punch. Let's go ahead and cut using this decorative label. What's the name of that called? Oh, decorative circle punch. So that's going to go right there. And we need a little birdie, and I've already gone ahead and cut my little birdie out. I fussy cut him. So he's going to go right there, and then we just need a sentiment. Let's use Just For You from Charming Sentiments. Let's see, Just For You right here. And what color are we going to stamp with? I think we will do the Misty Moonlight. Let's see, Misty Moonlight. It's out somewhere. Here it is. I'm gonna put this somewhere down near the bottom here. There we go. Let's adhere our little birdie to this guy. And we're going to put him on the card front using dimensionals. Just For You kind of straight on in there. Oop, this looks like a little piece backing that I didn't grab. And all we need now are some gems. Let's grab a hold of these Tinsel Gems 3-pack. And there are a number of colors in here that will work for us. Sometimes it's hard to tell what these colors go with, and I think that's a little bit on purpose, because then you can, you know, use them for more than one purpose. But in the catalog, it says that the 3-pack is Moonlight, Misty Moonlight, Fresh Freesia, and Lost Lagoon. Oh, look at that. Misty Moonlight, this is Bubble Bath, but that's very close to Fresh Freesia. And Fresh Freesia is in here. And Lost Lagoon. I don't think, now, if I take this off, it may change. Oops, I actually took the backing off of that one. I don't want to do that. If I were to take this off here, my Take Your Pick tool is right here. I should probably use it. If I put that on here, see how it adapts to the color? So it does really look like Fresh Freesia. Let's see if we can put some other ones on there. Maybe we put one down here. Because remember, we need to have a triangle. And I want to make a nice little triangle. There we go. And so there is a card. We just need an inside panel. And here's an inside panel that we can put in. We can make this a birthday card. We can make this whatever we want. Probably better idea to stamp it first before you lay it in here. But since I don't know what I want it to be yet, we're not going to do that. And if I were to take a piece of the Designer Series paper, when you cut off, when you cut this so that it is 4 inches, and then you cut it 5 1/4, and then another one at 5 1/4, you can get 2 out of the panel, but you also have this piece left over. And if you cut that in half, which would be about 3/4 of an inch, then you have something that you can put right down here at the bottom, just to finish off the inside so that there will be no waste. I like to have a little bit of a gap at the bottom too, just so it shows that little bit of white. And there is one more card. We're going to begin with a piece of designer series paper, and I'm using this pattern. It's got the decorative pecan pie piece on the back. And for this, you'll have to just decide what pattern or what cut you want to make based on the pattern that you have. For instance, I had this one. Let me see how it goes together. Yeah. So this one was one I had earlier. I cut it down, but I cut the wrong sides off when I trimmed it down. But I wanted to feature these two birds here. I cut it in half. But here, if I cut this one in half, it cuts through these two birds. So perhaps I don't do that. Perhaps I make not an even cut, but an uneven cut. Maybe an inch off one end. And so when I have an inch off one end, I'm still going to be able to use the same technique, but I'm not going to lose my birds. I'm going to bring in a piece of pecan pie cardstock, and I'm going to, got something on that, but we're covering it up. I'm going to adhere this piece right up here, keeping my edges uniform, and then this piece is going to go down here flipped over. So potentially most of your cards made with one sheet could look very different from one another. I'm going to bring in some pecan pie ribbon, and this is the pecan pie bordered ribbon. And I'm going to put this right down here. Now I don't want to put it exactly in the middle here because that really even takes away more of this. So I'll just put it up a little bit higher. You don't need a big piece, and because this is, well, it's a fairly thin ribbon, so I could just wrap it around and tie it in a knot. Let's go ahead and do that. If we don't like it, we can always adjust it later. So let me see here. So if I'm going to tie a knot, I want to start with something that's about 3 times the length of what I'm putting around it. So just to help you out, this would be about 16 inches. Well, technically it would be 15, I think, because this piece, oh, it's 5 1/4, so yes, almost 16 inches. And if we just make this a knot here, that's a little too loose. Got to tie it again. And don't worry about if the ends are equal. You can slide the ribbon wherever you need it to go. You just want to make sure that it's a fairly good fitting ribbon. Let's see, you get that pretty little knot right there. I can slide that to either side I want just by rotating it around. Let's now trim the ends. I'm going to cut on an angle. Right. There we go. You don't need adhesive here. You could put a little glue dot underneath if you'd like, though. I'm going to take another piece of pecan pie and adhere this with dimensionals. And the reason why, this is a fairly flat ribbon, so you can just lay it down with regular glue as well. In fact, you know what? That's what I'm going to do, because this knot's going to make it already a little bit thicker. And so in order not to anger the post office, we're going to go ahead and just adhere this with regular glue. And the reason why we needed that middle piece of pecan pie is to give something substantial to wrap the ribbon around in. You know what? I don't think this is cut on an angle that's pretty enough for me. I need a bigger angle, I think. There we go. Now we just need to figure out what we're going to do for a sentiment. I think the colors of this lend itself nicely to a sympathy card. And because I unfortunately have need for 2 sympathy cards, I'm going to use the Thinking of You from the Layering Leaves set. That's Thank You. What's this one? Nope, that's Best Wishes. That's not what I want. Here's Thinking of You. Yep, here's Thinking of You. And let's go ahead and get out some pecan pie ink. And a scrap of basic white. I just need to punch that out. Of course, you don't need to punch that out if you don't have a punch. I love this hexagon punch. I'll just put this right here for a very simple card. If you wanted to add some gems or rhinestones, you can. I don't typically do that to sympathy cards. It's a fairly large punch. I'm going to put some on all the spaces here, the sides and the top, so it doesn't rock. And let's see where I want to. I might want to, oh, now it's glued down there. I'm stuck with it where it is now, darn I. And there we go. And there's, oops, I took the ribbon with me. It's now no longer straight. There we go. Pretty quick and easy card. We will just take another layer for the inside. And we can, I think, line the edges with this. So we'll just take this and we'll cut off a couple of 1/2-inch strips. We'll adhere those to the left and the right edges. I think I'm gonna go right to the edge on this one. Looks like they're a little bit long. quite get that cut right. There we go. And we'll just adhere that right on the inside. Color coordinated inside and out. Thank you once again for joining me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed these cards. That Flight and Airy Designer Series paper makes beautiful cards, and they don't have to take a lot of time. Now don't forget, if you would like the class kit, you'll need to place an order in my online store by this coming Sunday, January 28th, 2024. The deadline is 7 p.m., but don't wait that long because we never really know when that paper is going to be in and when it's going to be out. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on Friday for my Friday Night Live. Tune in at 7:30.